What is up, Packers fans? Welcome back to the Daily Draft, brought to you by Brewski Light Lager from our friends at Badger State Brewing. My name is Ross Uglem. I am the publisher of Packer Report. And today we are breaking down day 3 of the draft. I know I'm one day late, and we're not going to do our full recap. We're going to do that with um, Mike Renner of CBS Sports, formerly of Pro Football Focus, formerly the draft guy over at Pro Football Focus. Little known fact, the Renners, season ticket holders, the Green Bay Packers. Mike is a Packers fan from up in this area. He brings a unique perspective, but really does a great job with everything. And happy to have him part of the Paramount family, part of that CBS family. And we're going to have him on. So this is going to be very day 3 specific. We're going to try and not look overarching, try and not get that 10,000 foot view. Just want to break down kind of each pick and my quick-ish takes on each player. First of all, after I would say pretty disappointing Friday for me, and I think it was viewed that way. I think someone just did the GPA thing, which I mean, draft grades are barely worth the ink they're printed on. But yeah, I thought that was pretty accurate, or pretty close to how I felt. Green Bay had the 25th best draft when you take in everybody's draft grades, or at least whoever has them. And certainly a valid point that they were picking 23rd. So, having the 25th highest draft grade is whatever. And again, not to put a ton of stock, but I was underwhelmed. And part of that has to do with some of the three biggest dudes out there had Golden as a top 15, 16, 17 project or prospect. Goodness gracious. And I didn't. So, a lot of people feel like Green Bay just nailed the round 1 pick, and then after that, it's kind of gravy. And I didn't feel that way. I was fine with it. And we've talked this to death, and this is not going to be another Matthew Golden podcast. But I think that aspect of wow, they just nailed it. They finally got that WR1. They finally picked a wide receiver in first round, which, by the way, is not an achievement. If he stinks, right? I don't think he will stink. I really don't. But just getting the monkey off your back is not a thing. Anyway, that was the craziest part of that whole celebration. It's we picked a wide receiver. Okay. And then it being Golden, him being pretty high up on consensus and fun and super excited to be in Green Bay. And physically, they're all of that was awesome. And I hope to God he's a great player. And I think he's going to be a really good player. I do. I mean, I don't give round 2 starter grades to just everyone. But yeah, that was a little bit funny that was treated like just picking any wide receiver in round 1 was an achievement. Well, no, he's got to be good. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Baron Sorrell, man, that was my favorite pick of the draft, easily. My 91st overall player, round 3 grade, meaning eventual starter on a good team. Just about put a round 2 on him, and then of course that's going to be. I kind of leaked the DMs, and it's going to feel like, wow, maybe it won't, because I'm kind of poo-pooing a lot of the rest of their draft. I almost put a round 2 on Baron Sorrell, and I would have ended up being higher on him than most, because I think Green Bay took him right about where consensus had him. I am higher on him than consensus. I will tell you that right now. He was treated like a star, man. And I know Alfred Collins had a lot of respect in that Texas program. But they were lining him up at 3-tech, and they were lining him up outside, and they were lining him up in a 2-point stance, and they were lining him up head up on a tight end. He was the weapon that you use to go get the quarterback, and he did 47 pressures as a senior, or in his final year, 9.3 RAS guy. But like I said, he was treated like the man. He was treated like the quarterback hunter. And so for me, when you have all these athletic traits and you don't have, and he's a little light for Green Bay, and he's got slightly short arms for Green Bay. But when you don't have an athletic red flag and you're productive at Texas, why are you a 4th rounder? I don't really understand it. Look, maybe he just won't work out. I don't know. But he's athletic and he's got a bag, man. He is so skilled at rushing the passer, and that is fun. He's really good. I was oh, you keep talking about RAS. What's incredibly important for pass rushers, as we've seen. But Sorrell, man, he is very talented, very skilled, really good at football, and I enjoyed watching his work. Really got to see even more games than I had when I was fallen in love, and notice how much they played him at D tackle, which is crazy for basically what is an undersized defensive end. But they just really moved him around the formation and trusted him to win, and he did a lot. I mean, he did. I really like him. The next pick, and one of my favorite picks, even though like they took him at 159, I have Colin Oliver mostly because he only played like 5 quarters. I had Colin Oliver as a. Now I've lost it here. I didn't have him this far down, I don't think. Yeah. I had a 7th round grade on Colin, or sixth round grade on Colin. He's just a tweener all day, and not the type of player that the Packers take. Obviously, they said that. He is a pass rush only, super athletic, like tweener that you can't play on base downs almost, unless you're going to play him at strong side line, like unless he's going to replace Isaiah McDuffie, which maybe one day he will. But they're never going to start, folks, a 6'1", 240 defensive end and play him on first down. They just aren't. But what you can do, and what I kept trying to explain for years, and why this pick excited me so much, even though it's not a value to me. I gave him a 6th round grade. They took him around 5. If you're just going by paper, you'd be like, Ross, why wasn't that a reach? It's not a reach because it completely redefines what they think. As far as, what's useful? A designated pass rusher who can get after guys on teams. And yeah, if you get down to the absolute bottom of the barrel and 2 ends go out and you've got him on game day active, Oliver's up, and let's say, Van Ness and Gary go down, you might have to play him. But that's just sometimes something you're going to have to deal with, because other teams have designated pass rushers and other good teams have designated pass rushers. And I just think Colin Oliver, man, that's such an exciting, like, just organizational shift. And Sorrell is not a tier 1. Sorrell's a little small. Sorrell's got slightly short arms, but they're willing to do things a little bit differently, which means they're willing to adapt, which is so cool. I don't mean to dump on Ryan Wood, but I thought it was interesting when he said whatever he said to LaFleur about, oh, can you guys just rush 4 now? And Matt was like, oh, for what? Why? They've got so many crazy ass positionless bodies now with Oliver and Van Ness, can play inside or outside. Sorrell can play, as a different type of pass rusher. They're bringing in Isaiah Simmons. I don't know, I'm breaking news here. They're bringing in Isaiah Simmons. He's sort of a positionless guy. They can't figure out what they want to do with Bullard. What does he play? Where can he go? What can he do? Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker are just freak athletes that can do they can play off the edge. Jeff Hafley can hit you so many different ways. They adapted, man. It's over. This isn't a rush 4 drop 7 defense anymore. This is a we're going to come at you with all sorts of crazy stuff defense. And if you can teach it, that's the key. Because sometimes you get these situations where defenses aren't playing well, and the coaches go, we have to simplify. We have to go back. We have to have 23 calls instead of 45 or whatever the number is. And so that's an issue, especially with the league's youngest team usually. Man, if they can teach it and get these guys bought in, and they do sign Isaiah Simmons and he does make the team, and you got Isaiah Simmons, Isaiah Simmons is not some great player. He wouldn't be available still. Okay. But you've got Isaiah Simmons, who's kind of a positionless football player, and Colin Oliver, and you've got Edgerrin Cooper, and you got Quay Walker, and you got Lucas Van Ness, and you got all these guys that can move around and cause problems for you everywhere. Kenny Clark's another one. He can play 1 and 3. Like, you're just never going to know where this defense is coming at you. And look, man, not every 4th and 5th round pick, and I mean that with Sorrell and with Oliver, make any kind of difference at all. In fact, most of them don't. So this is maybe some, unbridled optimism, but I just think it's really exciting. I love that they're adapting. I love that, this rush 4 drop 7, which is the best way to play defense. I'm not making fun of Ryan. It is. If you can consistently pressure with 4 and drop 7, you're better off. But the type of just diversity that they can bring from an attack perspective is really, really exciting. 6th round Warren Brinson. Actually, like Nazir Stackhouse quite a bit better. Brinson is 2 years away, I think. Exciting, big body, does a good job, linear athlete, can get up the field. I think he's a practice squad guy. And I mean, that's not offensive. People, it's a 6th-round pick. A 6th-round pick gets moved to the practice squad. That's a positive as opposed to just being released. And I know the Packers don't really release their draft picks, but Brinson's a year or 2 away to me. I didn't love what I saw other than clear and obvious athleticism. What's on tape is not as good as what's on tape for Nazir Stackhouse, who I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. It has happened. I think Stackhouse can be Slayton tomorrow. And I know that's high praise for you, UDFA, and I know obviously it requires him to make the football team. And he might make the football team at the expense of somebody they clearly value higher in Warren Brinson, because Brinson was drafted and Stackhouse was not. Stackhouse was sent out to the other 31 NFL teams with an opportunity to sign with them. Maybe they know. I mean, we've got the Draft Network tweeting out 25 picks left that guys have agreed to deal. So maybe they knew they had a deal with Stackhouse, but at that point, again, someone else can draft him. So I don't know. To me, and this is a day 3 thing, but I guess the you know what, the UDFA signings happen on day 3. We can discuss. I don't hate the pick. I think he's interesting, and he's a super athlete, and he's tall. He's different, right? Like Kenny Clark's not super tall. Devontae Wyatt, not super tall. They're not short guys either, but 6'2", 6'3", right? They're not enormous. Their defensive tackle crew isn't very tall or long. And Brinson is different. Micah Robinson, he's really interesting. He is smaller than they normally go, but he's linearly fast. He kind of has the athletic profile of an outside corner and the body of a nickel, but he's good. Go look at his PFF coverage grades and then just watch him play. I'm not just going to lay it all at the feet of PFF coverage grades. Watch him play. He's interesting. He's an older prospect. He played 5 years, and he's short and little. So, but then why'd they take him? Because it was round 7. That's what round 7 is. And then John Williams, I think he's a guard. I think you throw him in with everybody else, right? I think you're really locked into your starting 5. Sheed, and then Banks and Elton, and then Ryan and Tom. And you're really locked into your 2 high picks in Belton and Morgan. And then I think John Williams, who, if he is successful, I will call the composer, because no, I'm not original, but I love John Williams, the composer. I think he's going to get thrown in there with Jacob Monk, Kadeem Telford, Travis Glover. He's just, and then my guy Donovan Jennings, and I think that they're going to be pretty deep. I bet they're pretty successful on offense in the preseason. Got a good QB2, got a seasoned QB3. They're now deep at wide receiver. They appear to be pretty deep on the offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay's offense scores in the preseason, unless that Canadian kid gets out there. But what the hell do I know? Maybe he can spin it. Other than that, Dumas Johnson, the linebacker, really good athlete. I think played at Georgia before transferring to Kentucky. I had a higher grade on him, embarrassingly enough. I had a higher grade on him than I had on Colin Oliver, because he sort of, and Oliver, I'll admit this with Savion and with Oliver, they were just I'm not a huge tweener guy. And unfortunately, some of that is because of the Packers and the way they do things, or did things. Apparently, this is the new day. But some of that is colored by what they do. And Colin Oliver as sort of a tweener edge linebacker is not something that they do. And that would be the same thing for Savion Williams. Wildcat QB, kick returner, wide receiver, running back is just not their thing. It just isn't. Until it is. And then here we are with the new age Green Bay Packers. So that's why not such a high grade on Colin Oliver, not such a high grade on Savion. But I said it right away, Colin Oliver is my Evan Williams. I had 3 games. I had 2, one 2024 game that he played fully, and I had 2 2023 games of Colin. And then we just basically were able to get this cut up of some of his highest and lowest graded plays from 2023 and 2024 combined. just started watching the tape and I was like, good God bless this kid. And again, like all pro, probably not, right? He's a 5th round pick, but can he play no run defense and get me 8 sacks? Yeah, maybe. and hey, and hell yeah, if he can. So, day 3 was good, I think. I struggle with kind of the overall haul, right? Because I would have done more to address D line and corner, and I would have done less to address uh, wide receiver. I think ultimately, um, the offensive line thing isn't crazy, a 2 and a 7, but I just if Anthony Belton is a healthy scratch in a playoff game, and I'm watching, Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon get cooked up by the Eagles receivers or Terry McLaurin or Amon-Ra St. Brown and the boys, it's going to be tough to swallow. I would have done more at D tackle. I would have done more at corner. But overall, I would say that even though the overall, and I guess I lied, we'll get into more of the overall stuff with Renner. Overall, I think even though I would not have done it this way, not my favorite class of the last 5 years by any stretch, it is maybe the most exciting because of what Golden can be, because of what Savion can be, and then because of what even the additions of Sorrell and Oliver say about what they're willing to do on defense. Um, this thing is adapt or die, and Green Bay has been pretty good while being pretty stubborn. And now, there's a supersized offensive lineman now. I don't think Belton's that far from what they do because I think Belton's going to be a guard. And if you look at Belton and you look at Sean Ryan, Belton is kind of just a taller Sean Ryan. And if he ends up at guard, and if he ends up at tackle, that's a massive departure from what they normally do. But you got a small corner. Now, again, 7th round, they start to throw out their thresholds in the 7th round. But you're telling me you got a super XL offensive lineman, a smallish defensive end, a legit tweener end linebacker, and a small corner. By 11, by the way, you actually drafted a wide receiver in the 1st round. He was 5'11", 190. They're adapting. Now, this could go terribly wrong, right? There are draft evaluators out there that gave them a D on this draft. You just go by my rankings, they didn't do very well, whatever. But it is at least exciting. Hope springs eternal, and I think this class has a chance. I think this is a low floor, high ceiling class. This class could be like, oh my God, I can't believe they accomplished all this. Look at what Matthew Golden is doing. Look at all the crazy crap they're drawing up for Savion. Look at Anthony Belton work at right guard, and look at Colin Oliver and Baron Sorrell just scream off the edge, man. This class is something. Really thought they did a good job of increasing what I would call draft picks. They made 8 picks. They got 10 draftable players. Dumas Johnson and Stackhouse are draftable guys. So Brian said he wanted to add picks. He did. He had 10 picks. I mean, he just absolutely did. Anyway, drink. The guide buying is probably over. Thanks, freaking A, man. Thanks to everyone who bought the guide. That did so much for the boys and me and my family, and a lot of hours. And I don't want you to feel bad from it, but just like it's a lot of hours away from the kids, a lot of hours away from my real job, a lot of hours where I could be doing something else. And it's not that I don't love doing this, because I do, but to see actual dollars go into the bank account, both from you guys and obviously from our wonderful sponsors. Oops, sorry, over here at Badger State. It makes the time definitely more worth it, and definitely easier to come back and do it next year, and keep interacting with you guys, and keep talking draft. Moving forward, we are going to do a prospect primer on Dumas Johnson. We are going to do a prospect primer on Nazir Stackhouse, so you guys can kind of, because Andy does his deep dives. We only had Matthew Golden as a prospect primer. This was Goot through some heavy breaking balls. There were very few fastballs other than on day one. But Andy's going to do his deep dives. So I'm not going to go and do prospect primers for all those dudes that they actually did take. But I will do Dumas Johnson, and I will do Stackhouse, and I will do for sure a draft recap with Mike Renner, and then probably like a to-do list or a checklist, or some sort of look forward at the offseason. And then we'll probably take a decent sized break Maybe an emergency episode, or maybe I just have something on my brain. But we will probably take a decently sized break from the daily draft, obviously. But I don't even know that I'll bring back Packer Report TV until we get closer to camp. Thank you guys again. This is not quite goodbye, but I just wanted you guys to know how much I appreciate each and every one of you.